Yeah, I walk off and I go handle stuff while people get notifications. So yeah, so since there's no cool lo-fi hip hop, you'll have to rest your ears on the pleasant sounds of garage. So rather than just naming this laundry time, I'm pretty sure you recognize my garage by now, to which you're conveniently placed on my dryer, right in front of my 60-pound weight vest that's holding up everything. All right, so so I was watching Nate's video earlier, and then I was watching some of M's video, and I was looking at some comments that people were making, and I realized something. We have a lot of new people, relatively new people, in the community, and a lot of folks don't know Burt Poole. A lot of folks don't know Trey Jadlow, and so we're making these references, and people not getting them. I'm remembering all this, and I'm going, man, wow. So yeah, so people are kind of confused often as to, why why do people engage with your empiricism? Why do we engage with these people? Well, they're fair game for one thing. They put themselves out there, would be the primary reason. They offer themselves to be engaged with, so why not? But the heart of the question tends to be, this guy seems like he's ill-equipped. Why even bother? Okay, and that is a question that I've gotten for well over 6 or 7 years. I can't tell you how many messages I've gotten about me engaging, with the New Jersey retard. And I can tell you, and most of them were actually Christians, believe it or not. A lot of them were Christians who were saying this is a terrible person, terrible representative of Christ. It's a waste of your talent. And again, I'm paraphrasing what they're saying. I'm not tooting my own horn. A lot of them were saying shit like that, and I'm like, well, look, he puts himself out there like anyone else. Much like his compatriot there, True puts himself out there, and I'll actually handle that. I'll actually talk about that. But let me thank you, person who just sent me that message, for reminding me. I want to preface this entire thing by saying this isn't a video to bash True Empiricism. Believe it or not, this is actually a bit of a video to kind of help people understand the dynamics here. A lot of it may seem like an affront towards True because he does take things to heart, and I'll actually cover that in a bit. But a part of understanding why he puts himself out there, I think, that whole dynamic is missed upon a lot of people, and you have to be listening closely to kind of what he says to really get why he's around and why he does what he does. Because, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't sit through all his videos. Like I'm not even subscribed to him anymore. I used to be, but when he was a bit more interesting, when he would hold other conversations, that's when you would see, like, that's true. Yeah, here we go. He's you could tell when he gets excited and he launches into a tirade of what he thinks is science, and it's hilarious. Like, it really is funny, but just kind of him by himself, just kind of mumbling into the mic. And that's become its own meme in its own right, has been a staple for far too long. So I guess I should probably start at the beginning. And again, folks, and I'm pretty sure he's watching this too. Again, True, when I'm making fun of you, right? You know good and damn well the series that I have called Dismantling the Magic Man. That's me making fun of him. That's me being cruel to him. This is not. This is to kind of explain to folks what's going on, because the look on Nate's face after being baffled that he brought evidence because it was a political discussion. From what I understand, True doesn't want to talk about science anymore. I wonder why. That won't last long, but that's his decision. Nate was completely baffled as to how somebody could continue this line of argumentation when evidence is right in front of him, right? It's almost baffling because in a court, I'm pretty sure it's a different scenario. When you have evidence right there, it's damning. You're shooting yourself in the foot by continuing on this line. You can try to rephrase or maybe misconstrue some things, but just having staying the course when there's evidence right there and declining to actually face it is more damning than admitting that it's good. So I'm pretty sure it's kind of jarring because in your mind, when you're engaging with someone, you have evidence for your claim, and it's empirical evidence. It's not no anecdote. It's not no wives' tale. You feel that that's the best that you can bring to the table, and then folks should be convinced by it. In reality, and Ozzy will tell you this because, oh, by the way, did you know that I was a combat medic in the Army? Uh, Beliefs don't change overnight, right? That's not how any of our beliefs work. And this is not an Ozzy, dictum, but this is something that is very well known, but a lot of us don't realize it. When you hear something that conflicts with what you believe, you don't immediately turn over, and neither should we expect that of him or anyone else. And I think that's kind of lost. And we'll reevaluate it over the course of several days, weeks, hours, months, whatever, and then maybe it'll eventually change. But it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen instantly. So let me start off by saying that. So I should probably start at the beginning. I should probably start where I first came into the Google tubes. And some of you who are long-standing members of this community can probably remember first seeing me on the Magic Sandwich Show in uniform talking to Arn Raw. And that was a topic about how to raise a child while not, strictly enforcing, secular views, but creating an environment so that they can kind of, feel free to explore different ideas and faiths and that sort of thing. And so that was the content of our discussion. And then he encouraged me to start my own YouTube channel because there weren't very many, Black veteran atheists around here. Of course, Mandisa Thomas and Bridget Crutchfield and, Alex Jules and a few other. If you don't know those names, those are some important Black people. Write them down now. So other than that, there aren't too many of us, other than like Reggie. So I took his advice and I started engaging with someone called God's Son Al, which if this guy doesn't exist on the internet anymore. If you think of like light-skinned, more retarded version of G-Man, that's pretty much who he is. And so I started going back with him. This is back when you could post responses to people's videos. And so we started doing that. I moved on to someone referred to himself, I think, as a ghetto guru or some bullshit like that. I forgot what the fuck his name. You'll still see videos on my channel responding to this guy. He's up on a roof trying to be somebody. And this is back when I didn't know shit about dick. All right. So my arguments were bad. I mean, they still are there as a testament to how far I've grown. I don't delete videos that show that I've been wrong or just I do terrible. It's there, right? That someone should take notice of that, by the way. That's I don't delete those videos. They don't go away because I felt I did bad. So eventually, I can't remember how. I think I was messing with Godson Al, some of these other folks, and I came across the New Jersey retard. And through him, sucking off his buddies, I came across True. Now, True had me fooled. I have no problem saying True would hang around Keen and some of these other guys. He had me fooled. He would talk about this ATP synthase thing. And man, I got to up my game. This dude knows the fuck he's talking about. I got to, like, what the fuck is this? And I started looking up. I'm like, what the hell does this have to do with anything? And so I'm like, okay, maybe, and see, this is me. Maybe I don't know enough biology. Because I'm still in the Army, by the way. But did I mention I was a combat medic in the Army? It is actually pertinent to this conversation. So I had some knowledge. I actually have, military degrees in health science and other stuff that were actually relevant to my field. And I was a trained and certified EMT. I still have my card, actually. So after engaging with him, I would hang around someone named Suzuki Das. And I'm pretty sure some of you hear that name mentioned, but no one really knows who that is. He disappeared many years ago. He is best known for engaging with True and kind of putting his foot in his mouth when he thought that True had a whole bunch of sock accounts and he was doing all kind of nefarious shit. Now we know who that is exactly. But at the time, he had made some claims against True and had to apologize. And he was the bigger man and apologized. And so, but I sat and I listened to True railroad this dude with like what are aromatic compounds and stuff like that. Suzuki Das had a bachelor's degree, in in biology. And I think he was he worked as a teacher at some point, but he worked with actual scientists, like with master's degrees and PhDs. So he quit this shit to go back to school to continue his education, because he eventually found that having these conversations were futile. And so I commended him for that, and he is missed because Suzuki Das was a very interesting guy. So, but I never forgot. I never ever forgot how much True used to gloat at getting the best of a scientist. Because he would call Suzuki Das a scientist, and Suzuki Das would say, "No, I'm not a scientist in any capacity. I work with them," and correct him. And so that's what True hung his hat on, getting the best of a scientist. And so we said, "Well, Drag, what do you mean getting the best of him?" So you've probably heard me mentioning sharpshooting in conversations. When if I just have a conversation about evolution and I mention a kinetochore, and you probably heard me mention that before, it has very little relevance to what we talk about in evolution. Actually, no relevance, to tell you the truth. But if I just start quizzing you on things not really associated with what we're talking about, just to test your knowledge, that's a dick move, and that's something was coined in the army that I picked up, because people would do that to embarrass whoever was giving that block of instruction. And so you would, let's say if it was another medic giving us a block of instruction on how to do IVs, you could sharpshoot them by asking them how far, like how many millimeters in down to the epidermis that you need to go to puncture it, whatever. It is related to kind of what we're talking about, but nobody fucking knows that. Like you might have looked that up beforehand, but that's not, no one does that. So that's something that people do to be assholes to one another. But that's what True used to do, and it specifically came in the form of asking Suzuki Das if he knew about aromatic compounds. What do aromatic compounds have to do with evolution ID? Absolutely fucking nothing. But he felt so proud of himself that I said, you know what? Since this dude loves to bust people's shit and do that to them, I'm going to make it my mission to do that to him. And so here we are, here in this weird little, internet justice type scenario where, I mean, I got my revenge for that years ago, but now it's just funny because now I've actually taken the steps to actually pursue, a career in the biology. So, it's funny to see kind of where we are and how far we've come. But one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that True never really took the time to sit down and learn. And when I say learn, have a comprehensive understanding of any of the topics that he speaks on. And Nate found this out firsthand last night, and CRISPR to a lesser degree. But people have watched. Like anybody can watch, what we do and what we talk about and see this happening. All of you can watch it. But to actually be in a conversation is vastly, vastly different. And I can't place enough emphasis on that. When you have someone who's offering you factoids and then you're asking them to kind of clarify certain things and they can't, that kind of, signals something, maybe a few red flags that something's going on. Something that I learned about True eventually, as we would continue to have conversations, and of course that classic conversation where I think I had just taken like my first gen chemistry or something like that, and he's trying to articulate that nucleic acids could not have existed in primordial Earth because, and this is me reading between the lines and trying to articulate his own argument better, is that there would have been an acid-base reaction of some sort, and it would have been neutralized. The nucleic acid would have been neutralized into some salt, and so that supposedly would have prevented any nucleic acids from forming. But interestingly enough, it also mentioned salts being an issue, but he never really describes why. Like what salt interaction with the nucleic acid would have done something to it. So doing a video inside pair of boxes, my little brother's asleep, so I'm in here, and there are mosquitoes outside. So this is like the only other area that's suitable. That's why you're in my garage, and I don't have the car because Mrs. Drag is at work. So there we go. But so looking back at the conversation, it's hilarious because at that time I hadn't worked with DNA my damn self. But after working with it and understanding like what goes into maintaining its structure and how we add salts to it all the time. It's hilarious to hear him try to formulate what he thinks happens when we have geochemists that can tell us almost exactly what happened, to a certain margin of error, obviously, but using ice cores, using, various geological methods, we can surmise quite a few things, more things than people realize, but not, of course, not everything. But he's not privy to any of that. He's not going to go look into any type of journal at any point in time and sit through and read any of this stuff. And that was quite obvious to me once I started encountering people like Mr. Bapabui. That's another old name that people may not realize. Now, Mr. Bapabui is what CRISPR is to us now. He was fairly knowledgeable in science, but he was more even-handed than CRISPR. You can think of CRISPR as like Mr. Bapabui's like evil altered twin or something like that. But Mr. Bapabui was very, very gracious in trying to, because he would seek to try and educate these guys. He would try his best. Suzuki Das was like, "Fuck them, they're wrong," and that was an interesting dynamic that took place. But of course, I enjoyed the fuck out that. But Mr. Bapabui was under the impression that if you simply educated these guys on, what RNA does, how do we replicate DNA, nodes, you're saying that salt is going to be in a solution, isn't going to destroy it, and we add salt all the time during PCR reactions, because it's obvious that they had no clue about any of that. And as they would continue to say things like that, I continued to get more and more educated, and I started entering labs, and I started doing this, and then I started to realize that, man, a lot of what these guys are saying could easily be remedied by them pursuing like even a 2-year degree, or even if not even that, they could just email a scientist and ask, or you just you could go on YouTube and look up the protocol for a PCR reaction, and that will disabuse them of a lot of the nonsense. And it's honestly that easy. It's really that easy. So what does that say? What does that say? If you could change your position based on just that little bit of evidence, what does that say about the person who is espousing it? And that's kind of where I started having, I would say, micro watershed moments, because I really didn't understand why someone who was in his position, because mind you, and I said I was going to get to this, True is here he's here for a purpose. He's here for a different purpose than you and I. Absolutely. So holding him to the same standard isn't fair. True is here because he believes that what he claims to know about the world is true, and that people are being miseducated. And his job, his divine right or whatever, I just made that up, is to properly educate people. Now, you have to ask yourself, well, why does True think that he can offer information to any damn body? What position is he in to do that? The same position I'm in, same exact one. Just because I'm going to school doesn't make me any more, suitable to give out information than him. On this platform, this right here, we're all equal. And I know that's shocking coming from me, because he often describes me and others as arrogant. While that's true, that doesn't apply here. If we're talking about in an academic setting, in a lab, people should definitely listen to me over him. Definitely, because he didn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But if we're talking about here, we're on equal ground. So that's why he's here. That's why he can espouse the things that he espouses, even if they're demonstrably fucking false. He is just as right as any of us. So let me make that abundantly clear. I don't have my head so far up my ass that I don't think that he deserves a platform. So that being said, as we begin to have more and more conversations, we see it more of a shift towards a lot more vitriolic conversations. And as we enter Sam the Scientist, enter Rational Mind, CRISPR, eventually we got Doc Savage. We got the transition went from having a few choice individuals who actually have degrees and formal knowledge in this stuff, to there's almost a saturation of people who are scientifically literate, and that includes people with degrees, but the science literacy over the past 8 years has increased. Now, this is one of the things that I saw that really shifted and I think caused True to become a bit more reclusive and a bit more vitriolic, because being that Hogtie has stood the test of fucking time, True never really figured out just how well educated Hogtie is. And it's not just him, there's a lot of people who really don't realize. It took me a little while to realize. And of course, I'm not going to say, you know, his background, but True hadn't picked up on it. And it really hit me one day when we get to the whole DNA dissolving in water. And you listen to Hogtie break down how the phosphate backbone interacts, or supposedly interacts, with different ions and whatnot. So, and I'm paraphrasing that whole discourse, because as I sat and listened to it, I was like, holy shit, I realized what's going on here. Hogtie is opening the door for him to actually show how much he knows about basic chemistry, the chemistry of life. Okay? It's not a trap. It wasn't a trick at all. This is this is Hogtie giving the guy the keys to the mansion. And once you hear how he really, it isn't really just, you know, stuttering or pausing or stammering. He's unsure of what happens. And so Drag, why is that a big deal? This is something that you learn in your first 1 or 2 years of studying biology. This isn't anything that's miraculous. Anyone could look this up, or go to a Crash Course Biology or Crash Course Science, you know, YouTube channel and find. But, True had been lambasting people for years on what happens, and then calling them uneducated, and just excoriating people. And he couldn't even tell Hogtie a very basic mechanic and this molecule that he can rattle off all the nitrogenous bases like, you know, it's going to go out of style, but he can't tell you what happens to them. That was interesting. And so as we have more hangouts like that, we start to see a shift happen in True's demeanor. He had always been a bit, you know, sensitive towards, you know, being refuted or contradicted, you know, in public, but you really saw the vitriol come out up until the point that he actually calls Hogtie a snake. But it wasn't anything Hogtie did per se, because Hogtie is very cordial, and everyone knows Hogtie is more than cordial to these folks. But it's the fact that he says that, I really don't think that, you know, you do know a lot about this, but hey, let's give you a chance. It's, you know, let me be Canadian. That's what Hogtie does. He realized, True that is, realized that he had an opportunity and did not capitalize on it. Because going back to that hangout, because we would reference it, Hogtie would reference how True didn't even understand something that he himself described. He couldn't tell anyone. That is when, and of course that wasn't the only one, but that was one of the moments where we saw kind of like the real True empiricism come out. We saw someone who is deeply insecure about his own knowledge, and that holds to this day. The reason you guys don't see a lot of videos on his channel is because what some of us started doing, and thank you, Jay, bless your heart, you know, I'd gotten the idea to sit down and say, let's take True seriously. Let's try and get, one of us will play stenographer, and Jade actually, I think, did the second or third one. I know Max Hangs Out did one. I think Jade did the third one. I did the first one, and I want to say Max Hangs Out did the second one, and then Jade did the third one. So we would take discussions that True has had, because mind you, we're all listening to these, and we're saying, oh, True, what you're saying doesn't make sense. Like, if we actually listen to your response, none of it is you know, it's so disjuncted. Like there's no coherence from sentence 1 to sentence 5. It's just a garble of words just thrown up in some word salad that is put forth as a response to things that you think that you heard. And so he said, well, yeah, I know I don't speak the best, but what I'm saying is perfectly coherent. And he would deride us, you know, time and time again for just misrepresenting him. So I said, fine, Fine. Fine. If what he is saying is coherent, we should be able to type it out and give it to other people who aren't associated with this and see what they think. Lo and behold, when you type out one of his responses, it makes no fucking sense whatsoever. It spans from just like in my other video yesterday, where he starts talking about thermodynamics and open and closed systems and then transitions to molecular biology. As if now there is an intersection with the two, folks. Mind you, that does exist. That is a field, but it's not a segue. It is simply him pivoting because he's run out of things to say. There's no connection between the two being made. So in a lot of those transcripts, and some of them are still up, people got to see the transcripts. And people could then go and look up what he is saying and go, what is this? And we actually took some time to try and break down what he's saying. It makes no sense. He's trying to respond, and I'll break this down for folks and say, well, why does he keep doing that? What's happening there in those transcripts? And if anyone has a link to the transcript, I'm pretty sure we posted them. They're on my page way back somewhere, and you could probably search Google Plus and find them. He's trying to respond to what he hears. So if I'm asking him, well, what particular reaction will occur that will preclude nucleic acid from being produced in primordial Earth? Okay, so he knows what I mean by primordial Earth. He knows what a nucleic acid is for the most part. Now, I've asked for a very specific claim. Now, I wanted the reaction. There's all types of chemical reactions that Savage can tell you. Now, the type of reaction I know that he's trying to reference is called a neutralization reaction. If you all don't know what that is, when you have acid reflux and you consume Tums neutralizes that acid and it ends up creating a salt and water. And so that's why you have to go piss afterwards. So for all of you who aren't, chemistry inclined, that's what happens when you mix an acid and a base. They form a salt and water. Presumably, you would form some type of nucleic salt from that type of reaction. Now, knowing that, that's what I expect as an answer. But you won't get something as direct as that from him because he doesn't know enough about chemistry to tell you that. Which, fine. Maybe he doesn't know the terminology, which is strange, but maybe he can describe what happens. Because I named it, and I told you guys what to expect from said reaction. So with that being said, True could have, and this, if I was in his position, this is what I would have done. If I knew that a salt would have arose from this potential union, of an acid and base, nucleic acid, and whatever basic, whatever that was supposedly in the water, we're just going to go with that. Maybe we'll find residue somewhere, like a layer of that salt from that reaction. Maybe not. There's all types of ways that could have been evidence that he could have went and found out. Oh, during this layer, and it's been dated back, yada yada yada. What did he say? 50 million years ago? I think that's one of the dates that he uses. I'm just going to go with that. 50 million years ago, and this is why it was impossible. And boom, there we go. So now I got to account for that salt, right? And that would be an interesting way to go. But he doesn't know enough about that. What he won't do is to kind of put himself out there and then temper his enthusiasm to try and get the upper hand in the conversation. He will put himself out there as knowing enough science, specifically chemistry and like molecular biology, to have these conversations. And you probably heard Sam the Scientist say this before to him and others. Do you want me to treat you like a peer, or you want me to treat you, like someone who's a layman? Because what you'll notice when you're listening to True is that he'll use what he considers jargon. He will try his best to have the shibboleth of what he thinks, pay attention to that, what he thinks scientists and, science students and undergrads, what have you, talk like. That's what he thinks people are saying in labs. Because it's weird for me to say DNA and then name off all the nitrogenous bases, or me saying DNA and then going deoxyribonucleic acid. If I say DNA, majority of people know what the hell I'm talking about. Yeah, when have y'all heard me ever say anything like, or anyone else for that matter? I'm pretty sure even as laymen, you know what DNA is. You don't have to know what the acronym stands for, but you'll hear him do things like that because to him, that makes it sound like he knows what he's talking about. Or when he likes to mention the different types of molecules, he'll just kind of like pivot slightly to the left and go, oh, well, there's ionic bonds and there's covalent bonds. It's like, cool. Why don't you mention the van der Waals forces too while you're at it? Like, what was the purpose of adding things like that? But he'll sprinkle, like he'll just pepper little things like that. And I never figured it out up until a few years ago where I listened to him talk to other people. And I was like, oh, people that he doesn't know, and people, you guys can look out for this actually. It's actually really funny. When he's talking to someone who doesn't know him and he wants to try and impress them, he'll do that more often. When he's talking to me, he doesn't do that because he knows that, you know, if he, because he used to say, it was something he would say phosphorodiester bond. Phosphorodiester bond. Yeah, it's phosphodiester bond, but we can catch little things like that because we've actually had to spell that at certain points or read it or type it. So, you know, the average person may not catch that. But for True, that's something that's a mar against his image. And that goes back to the reason why he's here. If you guys have listened at any length to this guy talk about who does what in this community and who leans on who, and you listen to some of those people, it circles back around. Because Nephi, at large, Nephi was probably, I would say, at the kind of center of their weird, like, science triad, I guess it technically is. But True is kind of a, you could think of him as just kind of almost a free-floating agent. Like, he's part of the triad, but he's more a free-floating agent because he won't go as strongly as Nephi, you know, with asserting his science knowledge, because Nephi he will tell you outright, I've been researching this stuff for years. It's like, okay, Nephi, you no, you haven't. But True will want to skate the layman and the scholar kind of paradigms. And the way that he does it, it depends on who he's talking to. He knows that he can't pull that shit on me. He knows he can't pull that shit on Sam. He knows he can't pull that shit on Rational Mind, CRISPR, Doc Savage. None of us who actually know any of the stuff. He knows he can't do that. So then what he'll do is that he'll try his best to temper his enthusiasm to really engage in specifics. And so he'll offer more vagaries so that he has wiggle room later, just in case we've tried to call him on a mistake. He'll go back and go, oh no, this factoid that you guys were laughing at was actually right. You've seen this in the Gobi Desert nutrient scenario, where me and Sam took a lot of time actually and sat through one of his videos and took it seriously. There was a video we sat down before anything, like days ahead, and we listened to that video and we took timestamps and we addressed things that we found problematic, I hate that term now, with what he was saying. Some of the things included evolutionists expect pandas to jump from trees and grow wings. Ridiculous things like that, which that's not a tenet or an expectation or a prediction from evolution. That's something they made up, and him and freaking Antonio had a good laugh about that. But when we were addressing this, and this list had like 15 things on it, folks, he picked the two things that we got somewhat wrong, which was the nutrients going into the Gobi Desert, and I think there was the one other thing that was kind of sort of meh. So while not focusing on the myriad of things that he got completely wrong, he proclaimed a victory because he had gotten one up on people who were supposedly studying science in their full-time life. So that was an odd thing to do, because if it were me, I would have focused on a lot of the things that I got wrong. And you guys know me. If I get something wrong, hey, you know, or just even slightly inaccurate, I do my best to correct it there in the moment and not later by trying to conduct some sort of damage control as if all of my college credits will go away and, you know, and any of my accolades will, you know, be dissolved instantly upon admitting that, you know, I made some type of error. But for him, it is completely about appearing as sharp as he can appear. Because the one thing here that True values more than honesty and integrity is his image. And that's the truth. That is it. He doesn't want to give quarter to anybody who is saying anything ill against intelligent design or his friends, because that's what matters. That's the difference between people being here for entertainment, a few laws, maybe to learn something, and someone's here on a mission. And so me and others act as kind of almost obstacles on that mission, because if I sit and I make a video and I go, all right, well, let's listen to True have this discussion. You know, this, so teach about genetic entropy and RNA enthalpy. No, I cannot. No, I cannot. I will let Standing for True teach you about genetic entropy. I want to learn more about genetic entropy, trust me. But so me and others, and I, when I say others, that includes the Jewish travel agent. When we sit down and we do reviews of his website, which I'll get to that later. I might make a whole different episode just reminiscing about that. That website can best be described as an immediate abortion. But the content, the science content of his videos will range from topics that are just far flung that he has just reached out in the aether and grabbed because he thinks that it can be somehow, I guess, warped in a way to align more with his religious beliefs. Can it be? Sure. If you squint real hard and you squeeze it hard enough, why not? But an example of this would be the negligible senescence. Now, this is one of the funnier things that Sam and I still kind of talk about, and a few other who actually remember the negligible senescence thing. And by the way, if you don't know what negligible senescence is, don't worry about it. It has to do with aging and shortening of telomeres. It's not really important. But this was something that True picked up. This was a new trick in the bag of tricks. This was something he found, and I think it was a IO9 article. I think that's the name of the website, is IO9. He didn't find anything, that was scientifically robust. He didn't go to an actual journal and find this. He didn't, type in, senescence study NIH or anything like that. Okay, he found some pop science article about a guy researching, the possible age of humans if we were to maintain the length of telomeres and amongst other things. So now, mind you, neither one of us, or there's no one in the community who's into gerontology. One thing, I don't even like old people, but for some reason, he started saying that, well, this is your field. Well, it's not my fucking field. Sam is not a wet lab scientist, so why the fuck would it be his field? Doc Savage is a chemist manager, actually. And CRISPR field aligns more with the field that I'm trying to go into. So no one here is in gerontology. Why would you even say that? Which, that was one strange claim. Another claim was that we were supposed to already know about this. Now, one of the things that I figured out was that the expectation for us to already know about negligible senescence, something coined by, I think the guy named Finch. I think it might have been Finch is the guy's name. Can't remember. But that was actually taken from a comment Sam had made about a completely different video and a completely different topic. Okay? So when I figured that out, it was like, wow. So what ends up happening in True's mind, and again, it just took me a while, he pretty much calls all the comments that we make, the little snide comments, the little jabs here and there that we make towards him, he calls them all for over the course of many months, many years, many videos, many topics, and then he just kind of combines them all into what will be pretty much your online archetype. And so it doesn't really matter. The context is gone. And so he sticks those on you. And so when he sees you, he sees those insults. And so then he'll find an opportunity to try and offer that counterpunch wherever he can. And then this was the way to do that. And I was like, wow, that's actually kind of sad, but that's how he lives his life. So it is what it is. But things kind of then got odd because they started getting weirdly personal when there was a period in time where True was bragging about how much money he was making. And of course, this is where the whole Popeyes thing came up, where he was bragging about how much money he had supposedly made. I think it was $2,500 a week or something like that. And so he was going to do something nice for himself and go out and get Popeyes. There's not a motherfucker alive that I know that says, I got some money, let me go get some Popeyes. Let me just tell you. But, you know, I hear bitches love cheddar biscuits, so, you know, do it up. This part of the saga, for me, was very interesting because it also illuminated a bit about him personally, because we could talk about what he thinks is science and not so much about politics. And you guys seen recently his political views or him parroting political views. But this was true kind of exposing himself in a way that allowed me to see kind of who he is as a person, because I see the facade. When True gets on here, he puts on a facade. It is, I'm going to be true empiricism, the layman expert in biology or whatever topic I feel like today. I am going to be an avenger of the Christian faith. I am going to go here and edify my fellow theists and yada, 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 yada. I'm going to, you know, 1-2 punch these atheists into oblivion and whatever, right? The Christian Crusader online version, plus, you know, 20 intellect, 57 mage extraordinaire, scholar thing, whatever. So, but this was him trying to stunt on people online. And man, was it interesting. And so I said, you know what? I find it tacky, but why the fuck not? Let's play the game. And you guys know I love to play the fucking game. I said, well, True, you know, you bragging about, you know, you got money, but man, why would you pick Popeyes? That's a terrible ass choice. And it's genuinely funny. And it's still a joke to this day, but he got offended. And so it transitioned to, you know, the kind of house that he can buy and all these other material wealth things that will make him seem more important, because to him that is very important, it seems. So almost without missing a beat, people start to notice things in True's environment, because he would have no problem filming himself. And we told him, was like, dude, you should probably not be filming, you know, your ride to and from work if you want to remain anonymous. Because a lot of us knew that the people were able to track him based on the street signs that he constantly passed. And so and that's not even the worst part. People did find out where he lives, and we knew where he lives, but it's not where he described it. And mind you, I have no interest in actually knowing where True lives, right? I'm not gonna go there for fear of my own safety, not because of True, but because he lives in a terrible fucking area. So it's interesting because he had gone on this rant about how destitute I was and how poor I was, and that's redundant, and just this, that, and the other, and about how much money he was making. And it's like, dude, we see where you live, and Google Maps shows us where you work. And so you aren't balling like you're claiming, my man. So why would you get on the internet and then lambaste someone else who's actually doing better than you? So it really, again, one of those micro watershed moments that kind of makes you wonder what's going on in this guy's head. Like, because I make no, you know, I make no effort to hide myself. People know exactly where the fuck I live. So why is it that you putting on airs is such a big deal? Because I can't really put myself in his place. I can try. But when I do, it's a sad place. And when I try and put myself in a place in True's head where he doesn't seem to have a lot of human contact other than work and maybe at the grocery store, but he loves animals. Fair enough. That's you know, Nicola's the same way. He would rather be around animals and furries because furries are people. And, you know, other than other people, there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people like that. But for him, there's something that seems to be lacking. And and this is, again, don't take the shit that I say too seriously, folks. This is just my interpretation of dealing with this dude for almost 10 years, okay? And by the way, if you want to do a video on me, please do. I would love it. I love when people psychoanalyze. Tommy tried to, and it was fucking hilarious. I wish Tommy would actually do more. But I love when people psychoanalyze me because I'll if you get something right, I'll acknowledge it. That's one of the advantages of being very secure with who you are. So anyway, one of the weird things that I caught on to with True is that, and I guess it's not so weird. It's really not. I don't want to alienate True by saying that the things that well, what I perceive to be personality defects are somehow unique to him because it's not. He's human just like anyone else. But for a lot of what I see in him, it almost seems amplified. But probably because we're in a very limited scope. I'm pretty sure if I met him and talked to him, he's a pretty nice guy. Like I wouldn't doubt it at all. I don't think he's near as malicious as his fuck buddy, but that there goes my monetization. But I don't think that there's anything unique. But True's desire to get recognition rivals that of almost like Trump. Like I really don't know how else to describe it, other than it's almost jarring how much to me it seems as though True wants that respect and admiration that we give scientists, especially, and not even scientists, because I don't think scientists are really respected as much as probably should be. But the type of admiration and respect that Arn Raw gets, or Matt Dillahunty, not so much Seth Andrews, but whatever, Lawrence Krauss, some of these people. That's something that I see that he wants just by that need to have interaction, to constantly badger them to the point that they want nothing to do with them, and to, somehow recoup whatever losses in self-esteem that he may have suffered throughout that week. Because the more he engaged with folk, the more folks kind of say, hey, this guy really doesn't know a lot of the stuff that he's talking about, and for him to really, go in on people, something wrong with that. So that to me, and that's kind of a driving force that I see that resides within True, somewhere deep in his psyche, that he has a strong desire for recognition. And again, I do too. That's something that True and I both share. I will fully and openly admit that I also desire admiration and respect. The difference is that I'm willing to work for it. I'm not willing just to put on airs and to be a sophist on the internet. And that's where our paths diverge. That is something that I think, and again, that's not unique to True. That's a lot of people. Neffy, I think even more than True, has that desire. Neffy is a nobody from bumfuck Mississippi. I'm pretty sure he fits the bill better than True. Because I think outside of this, True is able to retreat. And I'll explain. You really don't see Neffy run away as much as True. You'll see every so often True will kind of, turn yellow-bellied, and he'll disappear for a few months. And when I say disappear, he won't say anything in comment sections. He won't say anything in live chats. He won't host hangouts. He won't make videos. That's what I mean, disappear. He's not actually gone, folks. Don't think that for a second, because I think some of you are asking, is he really True? No, he's never actually gone. True, you kind of mess up, when you start commenting every so often. But what you really mess up, True, is, and this is funny because I've caught you doing this a few times, when you say that you're gone and you're not watching him with video, I'll say very specific things in specific videos, and then you'll go and repeat them. So that lets me know that you're watching it. Now, I've said this before. I say very specific things like MC1R to let me know what you're watching. There's no one else in this community that mentions that G but me, True. Come on. So you did mention it, yes, in your negligible senescence. That came after I had been mentioned it to Tommy Hall way before then with the rock pocket mouse example. So anyway, that's one of the ways that I know who's watching what. They'll repeat something that I've said. And y'all know the Jersey retard is good for that. And I mean good for repeating things that I say. Drag, did you go to the military? Was a combat medic? I believe someone said, yes, Angry Road. Did y'all know that I went to the military and I was a combat medic? What it has to do with this part of the conversation? Nothing at all. The other part that I mentioned, it actually had a lot to do with it. But there's Hawkeye. So True, interestingly enough, doesn't really take breaks. And to be fair, again, a lot of us say that we're taking breaks, but we still watch this stuff. Some of us, for me, I go and I play Fallout or something, or I go play with my wife, or I'll go and actually do something. There's very few YouTubers in this community that I actually watch. I'll go and I'll watch videos of people being dicks in video games because it makes me laugh. So, but True really can't seem to pull himself away from this because he said time and time again that he's leaving, he's doing something on another channel. He said that he has another channel and it has tens of thousands of subscribers. And he's going to work on that, and so we know that's bullshit. But you know, he's made all types of claims. The all-time funniest claim that he has ever made, and I mean ever, has to do with his education. And holy shit, you all have heard this story before. If you've not heard this story about True's education, put a thumbs up actually in the comment in the live chat. If you've never heard the True Empiricism saga about him telling us about his level of education. Because man, I could have sworn we've mentioned it more than like 50 bajillion times. That saga right there really, again, another mini watershed moment for me, because I don't know people who make up having like degrees and stuff. I don't actually know people like that. So oh, people, y'all have not heard that story. Oh wow, okay. I thought everyone heard it by now. So like let me just kind of preface this by saying I personally have met lots of people from you know, my time in the military, and it wasn't just being a combat man, just being in the military. I met people from a lot of walks of life. I've been to a lot of states. I've yet to have met a person who will make a bold-faced lie about their level of education until True. He's the only one, and it, for me, allowed me to see a little bit inside his mind, because there's very little that you gain from making up an education. When you really think about it, if you tell someone that you have a specialty or a degree or a certification in a field, what are you trying to do? Like, then think about that for a second. If you're meeting a girl and you tell her that you have a degree in physics, why and you don't, why would you say that? Okay? If you're talking to someone you just met, another bro, right, and you tell them you have a degree in health fitness, what are you trying to do by making that up when you don't actually possess those types of, you know, credentials? Keep that in mind. So True has rarely spoken about his own education. All right, he has done quite a bit. I mean, hangouts and videos on other people's education, in particular Fiona Robertson. There was a whole, again, another saga where him and his compatriots were challenging Fiona Robertson's PhD. If y'all didn't know, Fiona got her PhD the year I was fucking born. Okay, so if that doesn't tell you how old she is, but that tells you that she's you know, past go. She collect $200, and she's done it enough times to where it shouldn't even be in question. Her PhD thesis is actually online. You can actually find it, and it's not hard to find either. I think it may be under her maiden name, but she will readily furnish it for anyone who's curious. But with less than 2 minutes of Googling, you can find it. So you have to ask yourself, well, why exactly is her degree being brought up? The issue came as though when we were having these conversations, and these guys are saying weird things like you can't dissolve DNA in water. You know, DNA would, yeah, if you bring DNA to 70 degrees Celsius, it would burn up. It would tear apart. You wouldn't have DNA anymore. Like, they would say weird things like that. Which, by the way, folks, that's not true. You can actually bring it to like around like 90 Celsius actually. So when you've done it, when you've lived it, when you've taught it, and you hear something like that, instantly red flags, right? So Fiona says, well, what are you guys talking about? A PhD in this stuff, right? We same. Then it became an issue of no, you don't. They were questioning her knowledge. Mind you, we hadn't heard anything, and we know the retard from New Jersey definitely didn't have anything, but none of us actually knew True's level of education. And so then that started to be brought into question. And it happened during one of the Magic Sandwich shows. I think it was the one of the benefits. Doctors Without Borders. There we go. I was thinking of the never mind. In the chat, and Fiona can tell you herself, because I was in the chat too. True says, well, my education, and this is in response to stuff being said to him, my education is so high that I can't tell anybody because then no one will want to speak to me. And I said, did he just, what? Are you, excuse me? Hold on. You're trying to tell me that you think that other people would discontinue having conversations with you because you have such a high level of education that people would be intimidated? Really? Is that a thing? Really? And I said, that's interesting. We have a PhD holder in the chat right now. Fiona, you ain't afraid to talk to her. Neither am I. So what are you talking about? Hush mouth. Didn't say shit. Done. Donezo. Fast forward a little bit, folks. We're laughing, joking, talking about this shit. True comes out. He says, and this, I think this happened in a hangout, in a live hangout, I believe, where he starts telling folks he has not a PhD now. It changed to he actually, because we're all liars according to him. And of course, this was in a chat. This is years ago. People, unfortunately, we don't have screenshots back then, but it did change, and people do remember this. And this happened live on one of our regular channels, not Magic Sandwich Show. He started telling folks he had a master's degree, specifically a master's degree in organic chemistry. Now, that's a very specific degree, and he used to tell people he's from Chicago. He's not actually from Chicago, but that he's close enough, right? So, well, that's interesting because Sam is also from roughly the same area, actually Chicago. And so he said, fine, well, let me just check all the universities that have such a degree program. Lo and behold, you're not on any of those rosters. Man, because you would have had to graduate recently. Well, the last few years maybe. But websites would have still had, you were doing this, that, and the other. And so, oh, looky, he didn't have a degree, a master's degree, mind you, in organic chemistry. Okay. That's the second time he's lied. Now let's get to the nitty gritty, folks. He finally relented. And this is where we finally got the truth, and probably one of the funniest, one of the funniest things I'd ever heard on the fucking internet. This guy says that, you know what, actually, I went to, and I think this is true, by the way. I do think this is actually true. I went to college. Okay. I was taking chemistry. I believe it. The class was too easy, so I quit. What? Huh? You did what now? This dude told us that he went, and I'm assuming it's Gen Chemistry because that's where you start out. Gen Chemistry 1, General Chemistry. It was too easy for him, which, okay, cool. So he quit the class and went to go pursue music. Now, maybe it's just me, folks. But if it's a subject or a field that not too many people find easy, why would you quit to pursue something that's relatively easier in scope? That made no sense at all. But of course, do I think that that is a falsehood? No, I actually believe that story. I actually do. I believe up until the point that he says he quit, not the reason why. Because I can tell you, as someone who loves chemistry but sucks at it, The people who are good at it stick with it, become tutors, teachers, and professionals, and get fucking paid. Enter Doc Savage. That makes no sense. If it's physics now, physics. If you were good at physics, it just comes to you like that. There's a place a few blocks from me called NASA that would love to talk to you. Why would you quit and go do some other shit? Why not get a degree, go work for them, and then have your music as a hobby? Or you're being just any kind of artist, being a sculptor as a hobby. Your career in that field would fund the hobby and then some. That made no sense. And it still to this day makes no sense. And he's not actually explained it. But I had to sit down, because that, for the life of me, folks, baffled the shit. And I mean, when I heard that, I had a good laugh. I mean, I laughed my ass off. Even I'll probably go out sometime tomorrow or tonight and have some drinks with some folks, hint, hint, and still laugh at that. The fact that he said that and thought that people were going to take him seriously. If there is something to be insulted by, it's that. In this video, this entire video, if there's something to be insulted by, I did laugh at that. And I still do. Because it's not the fact that he said that. It's the fact that he said that and he expected people to believe him. Because I can tell you that I fart fucking unicorns, but I don't expect anybody to believe me. I don't expect people to take me seriously when I say that. He expected people to believe him and go, oh, okay, I see why you're not in a field in chemistry. I see now. Yeah, No, that is a lie. I would have respected him more saying, you know what, I tried my hand at it. I wasn't that great at it. I want to go do something else in my life. I might come back later. That's what I would have respected, because that's an honest fucking answer. That is an honest answer. And hell, I've been there. I would have related to him. Yes, I've been there, man. I got you. When I first went to a 4-year university, I didn't have the discipline I needed to maintain hell anything. I wasn't there mentally. I had to go through the military in order to get me disciplined enough to succeed. Okay? And I still struggle with that because my ass is lazy. But I understand that as somebody who's lived it. And there's plenty of people who are like that. But why lie? That's the thing that gets me about True. And any of the things that he does, he has no compunction when it comes just to making up stuff. And even when you catch him in something, it's just an obvious lie, he cannot stop himself from doing it. It's some compulsion. And I think that it's driven by the desire to save face. I really, honestly, truly, and that to me, a part of my heart breaks for that. Because I can't imagine living in a world, living inside your own head to the point that you have to lie to yourself and other random people who don't even know you in order to maintain some semblance of self-esteem. Because he can't bring himself to say, yes, I failed. I have failed, folks. I can tell you right now, I'm probably on the border with one of my fucking classes right now. I might have to retake. You know what? It happens. My path isn't all fucking success at all. It's not. Especially being a non-traditional learner. All my good brain cells were used up in the military. I got what I got fucking left. But it is what it is. It's a part of fucking life. And I look forward to it because failure teaches you. It teaches you more than success will. But I've learned that as an adult. But for True, I don't think that he's understood that yet. I don't think that he can actually stand back and say, you know what, maybe I don't understand this stuff as well as I do. I still think that there's a God. I still think that there's evidence out there. But maybe I should just stop fabricating things. That doesn't occur to him at some point. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know. But it's sad, though, that he's put himself in that position. He's put himself in a position so that, why is this really high? Okay. He's put himself in a position that he can't get out of because now he's leaned upon for scientific knowledge. It's weird to me that for someone who doesn't really like the limelight, he sure as hell puts himself out there like he does. Because that's the impression that I get. If people are deferred, well, I want Drag to get in and have this conversation. I want Drag to do. I want Drag. Well, that puts me on the spotlight. So I have to make sure I know my shit. I might have to actually go and read. I might have to actually go and learn and be wrong about shit. And so he can't do that. He cannot for the life of him do that. You can't talk about knowing stuff and then not admit fault and failure. That they don't go hand in hand. You can come on here and be a sophist all day long. That's cool. But like Nate found out recently, it really doesn't matter the topic. Because people think that, well, if you're talking about science or true, he's just going to BS you with little factoids, which is true. Which is true. Well, you found Sam shared with Doc Savage and RC and Christopher and others. Well, RC's probably not around, but share it with share it with Hawk Tech too, actually. But he's not going to put himself in the optimal position so that he can support his brothers in Christ, but also say, you know what, I'm not gonna be your the hanger where you put your hat as far as your scientific claims. I'm not gonna put myself out there. I don't feel comfortable doing it. He's not gonna tell them that. And that's why you'll see the Jersey retard actually trying to elicit a response from him to a conversation that he himself said was a good conversation, because he doesn't feel, and it's weird, he has the gall to sit and lie to people, but he doesn't have the gall to tell him, no, look, I disagree with you. I think it was a great conversation. The part that you're talking about may be different, but I have my own interpretation. He's not going to stand up to him. So you can lie to people. You can be bold and just make up stuff, mind you. And we have an entire Google Doc with clips and quotes with him just contradicting himself. I have screenshots too, where he claims that he had never changed the position on the DNA and water thing. And then I have an exact screenshot of him saying, yes, I changed my position on it. So he can do that, but he can't tell his buddy that, no, I'm not gonna put myself out there like that. It's baffling to me. It's really the mental gymnastics that he has to do, and it's all revolved around not being able to be contradicted. It's all revolving around him not having any sort of Mars against his online image. That's it. Once people understand that that's when you enter a conversation with True, it's about image. And that's why he's always weary about when I enter conversations with him, because he knows that I can pick up on things. That's why he doesn't appear on camera anymore. And some of you have known that. Noticed that recently he's not appearing on camera just because we kept catching him making very, very effeminate poses when he watches. I don't know what it is. I just think it's funny. I'm not really sure about that. I can't psychoanalyze why he does that. I have my suspicions, but he makes some very interesting poses. And so rather than stop making the poses, he's just not going to be on camera anymore. Well, I mean, all right, I guess that's fine, but your choice, man, your choice. So, but one of the things that he was curious about, and some of you who caught the conversation that I was in when I went into his room about a week back, he was curious as to why I came in. And some of you might have heard that. He said, "Wow, why did Drag just come in here? Why did that just happen?" He's always looking for an angle that I might exploit. He's always aware that there's something in his vicinity, whether it be what he's saying or something that he's presenting or whatever, something that I can use to capitalize on. He's aware that I have that ability. And so now he's on guard at the entire time. And I can tell you that conversation that I was having with King Matthew, there was no angle. I just went in there just to talk and to actually relay a message. And that was it. I just so happened to be, getting quizzed on cancer biology. But you notice the difference, though. You notice that there are certain questions that I was being asked where, I'm not too sure about that. And I'll kind of say, you know what, I might have to do some research on that. But, Other than that, the majority of questions I already knew. Stuff about like angiogenesis and how metastasis happens. Like that's basic stuff to me. So the difference between me going to a conversation and talking to someone is that I can have organic conversations. True really can't. And some of you have kind of picked up on that now. One of the funny things to hear True do is to try and answer someone's question. And that is, to me, the highlight of listening to True Empiricism. Listening to him drone on about whatever ATP synthase, ion this, anion that, cation this, and microtubule, pseudopodia, kinetic core, yeah, whatever, right? Even to me, it just is gobbly fucking good because there's no connection with anything that he's saying. He's naming things. I can name things. I just did. I literally just did. Did that make any fucking sense to you? No, it didn't. There you go. So the best thing to listen to, in my opinion, is him answering someone's question. And I'm not talking about just sharpshooting them like, hey, True, what about the sophistication of kinetic core in conjunction with different microtubules within a cell during mitosis? I could ask him about that, which is, by the way, it's a stupid fucking question that really doesn't mean anything, but I could ask him something like that. I know good and goddamn well he doesn't know what a kinetic core is. I know he might know what a microtubule is. I'm pretty sure he knows what mitosis is. But the context of the question is really nonsensical. So, but it's the rough equivalent to what he does in conversations. I don't need to do that at all in any conversation, and no one needs to. No one needs to sharpshoot him the same way he likes to do with other people. There's no need for that. You can simply ask him to back his claims. Listening to him rationalize his positions is the funniest shit in the world. When the guy tells you that he has empirical evidence and then says the empirical evidence is cause and effect, that kind of lets you know that he really doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But in his mind, he is offering a cogent response. He probably can't tell you what empirical evidence is. Maybe on a good day he can, but then how cause and effect fill that particular standard beats the hell out of me. But maybe it's not because he doesn't understand. It's because everyone else doesn't understand. It's never the fact that True... have y'all ever actually heard True just overtly state that he doesn't know enough about a topic that he's brought up, that he doesn't know enough about it to speak on it? Have y'all actually ever heard him say anything like that? I'm at a loss. Maybe not to my recollection. He's not said that. To things other people bring up, he will do that because he won't stand by points that others have made. Obviously, and that's a good policy to have. But he will put himself out there. He will try his best. He will begin to mention things, and then when he does, he doesn't have a real big interest in making sure that it's accurate. And that's the funniest thing to me. It's never really, because, we make mistakes all the time. People misspeak. But for True, he's not really interested when someone offers a correction or a clarification. That doesn't seem to be on the agenda, really. People end up actually getting blocked for that, interestingly enough. So then you have to wonder, what does he seek to gain in conversations? What is the end goal here? What ultimately, and should you engage with him? Is it even worth it? See you later, Steve. I say it's up to you. Absolutely. I won't tell anyone not to engage with your empiricism. But if you're looking to talk to someone who, just to have a decent back and forth, I would make sure that you understand that when you're talking to him, that you realize that you're coming from two very different aspects. When I talk to him, I'm having a good laugh. I want to see what he said. I'm genuinely interested in how he'll respond. it really doesn't matter what he responds with. I'm just curious as to what it is. I don't need to work an angle and talk to him. I don't need to trap him anywhere. I just need to let him continue talking, because I know if I continue to let him talk, he will put himself in a hole. He will contradict himself if I let him talk enough. It's not anything hard. And again, I know True is watching. I don't need to try and find angles to exploit. There really are none, other than let you speak. So so ends my brief psychoanalysis of true empiricism. I don't know if people like this. I might do it for other people that I'm somewhat familiar with, but yeah. So I felt like getting that out, because I do actually get a lot of questions about some of these guys' behavior. So I was like, well, if I just make a video, maybe it'll help elucidate a little bit more about kind of what goes on as far as their habits. And trust me, there's a lot of stuff I left out, folks. I try to stay away from his insecurity about his physical appearance, because there's no way to really talk about that without being very insulting. And so, I mean, there's no reason to really even bring it up other than to make fun of him. So that's why I excluded that. But there definitely is something there. I think there is definitely some deep insecurities there, and it's probably some deep seated ones too, that even I feel bad about bringing up sometimes. But and that's why I've kind of stayed away from it. The fuck was that? Did y'all hear that? Something in here. Anyway, but yeah, I wanted to keep this about how the conversation's happening and maybe why certain conversations happen, and some of them are fruitful and others aren't. I'm pretty sure if you talk to True about dog breeding, for instance, if you actually want to have a decent conversation with him, and this is something that if you say, well, here it again, if you say, Drag, what's an ideal scenario in which you think True would be at his best, to have a conversation with, or just to have, something that people can actually watch. Because let me tell you, though, this guy does not know where to hold the mic for the life of him. Like, he'll get it right every so often. 1 in 5 videos, he may figure out where the mic needs to go. I would say, Ryan, it's not a dick. Okay, you don't need to put it here up into your mouth. And any other time, he has it across the room, yelling at it. Hear Luna's little feet, tapping, on the linoleum. But if True and maybe Nicola had a conversation about dog breeding, or just animals in general, I think that'd probably be an interesting video. I'd watch it just out of curiosity, because I know both of them have a high affinity for some of our four-legged friends. So that's something that it's kind of popped up in my head, that I was considering. I was like, that'd probably be interesting, because occasionally I do wonder about how people would interact when it's not, the scenario is such that he doesn't feel the need to put on the facade. If without any of that, he might be a decent person to talk to. Is what I'd imagine. All right, I think I've been ignoring people's comments. You type too damn much. Wolf. Let me see. Ryan doesn't even care about chemistry. He just wants people to think his belief in theism is rational. But every time he gets something wrong and experts correct him, he brushes it off completely. Yeah, that's true. That goes back to a conversation. He was actually trying to do that with Doc Savage when he was trying to talk about he was trying to talk about cancer. He was backing Tommy Hall, and he was talking about cancer, and he was actually trying to refute certain things that Doc Savage was saying, and it was bad. And it's like, man, you actually have a chemist here talking to you, and but you know more than him. Okay, maybe I don't know, but that's funny. Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of that, and it's just like when Nate found out recently. Even when it's politics, he's not gonna sit and research. And to kind of just wrap this up, because I might let this go to an hour. I didn't mean for it to go an hour and a half, but God, I'm hungry. uh, he's not going to sit down and read through much of anything, right? And why he doesn't do that, I have no idea. I wish I could tell you. That's something I've still not figured out. Because he has the time. And let me lay some things out for you. True is pretty much living a bachelor life, other than his dogs. I have a family, and I have a little brother to take care of too. You look at the time that I started on YouTube and he started on YouTube, and you look at the growth as far as knowledge between the two of us, and you'll see where he puts his time and where I put my time. And think about that for a second now. Think about all the little snide comments his girlfriend makes about people who are going to school and learning stuff as opposed to whatever it is that they call themselves doing. And this is not to shit on them personally, but if we're honestly going to talk about people being able to speak on a topic, because that's something that comes up in a lot of his discussions, a lot of them. Who can speak on this topic? And it's always a snide remark that he likes to make. And so that's why I said, okay, well, if we're going there, let's go there. If you look at any old video from True, and look at any old video from me, and let's talk about chemistry, biology, science, whatever. You look at the difference in between, just based on shibboleth alone, just based on the shibboleth. All right. Thank you, Hogtie, for that word. You will see that my growth has been almost exponential. He has not learned a goddamn thing in about 6 or 7 years. He's repeating these same things that he had back then. These same talking points. But he's not even learned to expound upon them. He's not actually had conversations where people could challenge him. Where he said, okay, well, someone's saying this, you know what? Let me go and research that a little bit more. But that's not just him. That's not just him. Let me play some guitar. Okay, I'll play a little guitar. And this is for this is for fucking Xavier's Patreon, since he said he wanted to hear some guitar for him. I don't know how to open this thing up. It's fucking. How do you open this goddamn thing? Alright. I think the third string is still broken. Yep. Hello, everybody. My dog left me. My wife left too. That's why I sit here and sang the blues. Luna, come back. Luna, come back. Bitch, come back and come to me. Bitch, come back. Bitch, come back. Bitch, come back. I have been back. Bitch, come back. Bitch, come back. Bitch, come back. That's enough of that. All right. There you go. That's your Patreon. So, it's enough. It's hot in here, and I'm hungry as hell. I'm about to go. I hope y'all enjoyed this. If you like this series, thumbs up, share all that stupid shit, and let me know. Because I really, that actually hurt. So, and I am not musically inclined. Y'all want to hear guitar music, go to my wife's channel and listen to that. And because she does that shit, not me. So, on that note, I'm in the process of trying to get, what is this guy's? His handle is Black Men Vent TV or some shit like that. I gotta look at it again. He's agreed to come on and let me roast the fuck out of him because he has some very interesting opinions about black women. And I said, okay, that's fine. You know, your black ass got here by, I guess, you know, osmosis, but whatever. So we're gonna discuss that. We're gonna talk about it. So hopefully he doesn't bitch out, and we'll see. Because not often I get to roast one of my own, you know. So yeah, it should be interesting if he doesn't bitch out. Other than that, on the Three Black Heathens show, we have some ideas. We're going to be doing some interviews with folks. Not sure who we're going to start with. I can tell you, Lalandra Raw is definitely on the list. Lalandra may be next week, not this Sunday, but next Sunday. Lalandra may be on. But other than that, there's a few folks in the community that we're going to do. If you've seen the Thirsty Theist, kind of the same thing, except with funnier people. Sorry, Holy Spackle, but you know that's what's probably going to go on. So we will definitely let people know ahead of time so we can have some questions set up, and we're going to try and get people to rotate in and work that in the system. And so if y'all want us to kind of discuss something, please leave comments on the on the on the page, because if you say in drag chat, I might not see it in between people saying that they're gonna run through the streets naked and shit like that. I don't check the drag chat as often as I probably should. And now that school's out, I'm probably gonna be playing Fallout and getting drunk and making videos on random things. So let me know kind of what you want. So if you like me doing this, and it's someone that I've interacted with a lot, you know, usually someone who's been antagonistic towards me, definitely let me know. But other than that, folks, y'all have a good day. I'm really fucking hungry. Didn't realize I was goddamn hungry.